For example, we've got the bright new face of the Democratic Party here tonight, Mr. Bernie Sanders. There he is. Bernie, you look like $1 million. Or to put it in terms you'll understand, you look like 37,000 donations of $27 each. I am hurt, though, Bernie, that you've been distancing yourself a little from me. I mean, that's just not something that you do to your comrade.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. That was from the White House Correspondents' dinner. I did watch it. And what's the guy's name? Larry Whitmore. I've never watched his show before. Do you think, I think 90% of his humor, so-called humor, was about race. Got a little monotonous very fast. Anyway, joining us, Patrick J. Buchanan. Sir, how are you?
Fine. That was a funny line the president had about Comrade Bernie.
Listen, he is Comrade Bernie, Comrade Obama. I mean, the two peas in a pod. Everybody forgets the Frank Marshall Davis, the Alinsky, the Acorn influence, the Reverend Wright influence, the Bernadine Dorn and Bill Ayers influence. I never forgot it, Pat.
Well, I will say, I mean, the president's about done now, but I will say when he gets up there at those dinners, he's got, not only does he have outstanding writers, he's probably a good writer himself, but it was very, very funny, and he delivers his lines very well, Sean, and I have to say, I mean, everything he said, it's like the gridiron dinner where they singe but they don't burn. But that other fellow up there, I thought it was very potty-mouthed, and I thought it was...
potty-mouthed? By the way, you're really showing your age here, Pat. Potty-mouthed, geez.
Let me say this, I'm surprised that no one walked out of there. I mean, I watched the whole thing, and I couldn't believe look, everybody's fair game for having fun at their expense. Yeah. But I thought a lot of it was crude. A lot of it was heavy on the race card stuff.
A lot was racial. A lot.
And it was potty-mouthed.
Yeah. You know, I'm very proud of this fact, and I doubt you know this about me. So I'm now in my 20th year on the Fox News Channel. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. And I've never been to a White House Correspondents' dinner, and I'm very proud having never gone.
Well, I will say that I started going back in, I guess in the early Nixon years, very early Nixon years, and I went into a number of them, and I think one of the last ones I was there was when I was running against George H.W. Bush, and when he got up and said that Pat Buchanan had the best line of the campaign in Michigan, where he said, "Ich bin ein Mercedes owner."
Wow. Wow. Okay, you remember everything, Pat. I can see.
You never forget those.
I can see Pat's taking that one to the grave one day. Well, anyway, let's go to the campaign. Indiana is tomorrow. You're looking at the polls. I'm looking at the polls. All have Trump ahead anywhere between 2 and 19, except for one that has Cruz up by 16. And we just had Jim and John McLaughlin on. They believe it's an outlier. You have written a column recently. The headline was, "Only an act of God can stop Trump now," but that's from the nomination. Can he win do you think the nominating process is over?
I think, as I said, barring celestial intervention, Trump is going to be the nominee of the Republican Party. I think he's going to win Indiana, and I think he's going to win California, and I think he's going to win New Jersey. And I don't think they can take it away from him. And I do believe that if he is nominated, he has a chance of being elected the next president of the United States. And the reason I say that is that Trump has someone put it this morning, a non-traditional appeal. He has an appeal on these, if you will, the issues of the trade issue, the immigration issue, the stay out of foreign wars issue, the populism, the nationalism, that Republicans don't normally have, and that have real appeal in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and some of the others that we've lost for 6 straight times, Sean. And there's something else. Let me say this. Trump, whatever you say about it, is a very arresting, interesting, exciting race. People are talking about it. Did you hear what he said today? Are they going to come back on this? Is this good? Everybody is following this like an NFL season. And whereas on the other side, I mean, nobody is excited about whether you're for Hillary or not, nobody is excited about what she represents or offers the nation.
If you look at just the voting numbers, Trump is on a path to get more votes than any GOP candidate in the history of the GOP primaries, and Hillary's down anywhere from 20 to 60% in every state that has voted so far.
And not only that, Trump is winning now by 50 and 60% when Republican turnout has been greater than any series of primaries and caucuses in history. People are tremendously interested in, some of them coming to vote against Trump, obviously, but tremendous numbers of non-participants in politics and not usual non-voters are coming out in primaries because he has really excited the nation. And I think two of the main reasons are obviously the border, securing that, but these lost jobs, lost factories, lost income, the fact that the middle class is drifting down and the well-to-do seem to be doing extremely well. So I think all these issues really raise the potential that you can hear in Democratic voices when they're saying, look, don't take this thing for granted. This is not going to be a walkover. I mean, we may win this thing, and we may win it big, but I think they fear they could lose it.
I know they fear they can lose it. I absolutely, positively know beyond any shadow of a doubt that they fear that. What do you think about the... Look, it's been very intense especially between Senator Cruz and Donald Trump.
Right.
And you've got a Never Cruz movement, you got a Never Trump movement, which is bigger than the Never Cruz movement. Do you think if, in fact, what you're predicting happens and he becomes the nominee, do you think he's going to be able to win over those Cruz supporters, and how would you recommend he do it?
I think he will. Obviously, if you win and the other fellow drops out or concedes, which I think Cruz will not do until after California. I think Kasich might leave after Indiana. I think that Trump makes the call to him. But in the last analysis, Sean, I think what's going to bring Cruz around is there's a possibility that Trump loses if he's the nominee in November. And if he does, if Cruz has not come around and has not endorsed him, his fate will be that of the Rockefeller, Romney, Scranton crowd, who walked away from Barry Goldwater in '64 when Nixon and Reagan were out there fighting their hearts out and going down to defeat with Barry. And Nixon and Reagan got the presidency twice, each of them. And those fellows were never heard from again.
Well, I keep reading these predictions. I mean, I don't know if the analogy fits. I mean, there are some people...
Cruz has got to endorse Trump. You have to endorse the candidate, or the next time you run... I mean, there are a lot of people said, look, maybe we didn't like Trump, or we did like him, and you walked away from us when we needed you, and now we're not coming with you. I mean,
well, I've been saying
Cruz, no matter how bitter he is, I would tell him that at that convention at some point, he's got to endorse. You know, Gene McCarthy and the Democratic Party held up endorsing Humphrey in '68 until the final days, and he never went anywhere again.
Let me ask this, because I think this is really important. Don't you think there's got to be a way that as unconventional as Trump has been, don't you think there's a way to bring Ted Cruz into any type of position that would satisfy? Like, for example, he's going to name a list. I'm only going on your assumption that you think Trump has this wrapped up and, quote, only an act of God stops him. So if you're right, what if he said in his judicial philosophy speech, which apparently is coming up soon, that, Ted Cruz would be my top pick for the Supreme Court? Would that be nuts?
I would not. That would make that an issue of the campaign. And, I'm not sure you would want to shift and make that an issue in the campaign.
Well, he said he's going to name names. He said he's going to give a list, and only from that list will he choose a Supreme Court nominee. So he's going to be naming names. So it's going to be.
He's not going to. I would not say I would name Cruz. I do think that you could say, look, Ted Cruz, who knows the Supreme Court and Supreme Court issues and has written on them and spoken on them, as well as any others, is someone a lot of people will take a look at. I would say that, but I would not go so far as to say I'm going to name Ted Cruz to the Supreme Court. I will say, did you hear Biden's line?
What's that? Biden
says Obama should appoint Cruz to the Supreme Court because pretty soon he would have 8 vacancies.
All right. Easy, sunshine. What do you...
But I don't mean, here's the thing. I mean, in my view, probably, I don't mean to joke, but a lot of senators might support Cruz up there themselves, given what you hear about how popular it is. But let me be serious. Ted Cruz, clearly, he's outstanding in his academic career. He's outstanding in terms of his discussion of these issues. He's been a clerk on the Supreme Court. I mean, he's worked.
He's argued 9 times before the court.
Clearly qualified, and he is clearly of the precise mindset, or with regard to judicial items, that you want on the Supreme Court. But I would hesitate to name specifically. I'm going to appoint him.
Yeah. No, well, he might be part of the list of 12 or 13 people that he lays out. Who would be a good VP? Who, for anybody, who would your, and I want you to think out of the box a little bit here. Who do you think, and I'm just assuming for a minute based on Kasich's actions that Kasich doesn't want it. Who would be a good VP for either one of them?
Well, I think you need I would start down the road, and I would take first. There is an advantage to having someone who has who would really reassure the party base and the establishment and the rest of them, and it can deal with those folks. Frankly, like a Cheney for Bush, okay? When W came up to D.C. And that's one consideration. The second is you got to win this thing, Sean, and I would be looking closely at someone who could strengthen me in the real battleground states, which are hopefully not. I mean, Trump is, if he's a nominee, will take Texas himself. He has to. But I would look for people who had real credentials and might be able to bring a state out of the Democratic package.
Well, the person that would come to mind the most, if that's your thinking, would be John Kasich.
Kasich's Ohio, and you got to presume you can win your Ohio yourself.
So are you looking at maybe Scott Walker in Wisconsin?
Well, but he didn't mean. Then I'd have to take a real look at why he slipped and fell just coming out of the gate,
He certainly knows how to win that state, though.
He knows how to win the state, but he doesn't know how to win on the presidential field. I mean, he's shown that. I'm very high. I thought he did a great job in with fighting
what do you
those
think
public
of
unions again and again and again.
What if you brought out of, some of the old days, what if you brought back people like Newt Gingrich and Rudy Giuliani?
Well, that's interesting.
What do you think about Newt Gingrich's VP?
I don't know. I think Newt's got a lot of. I don't know who Newt brings you that you don't already have.
Well, would Newt Gingrich reassure conservatives? I mean, look, he's the last guy that balanced the budget. He's the guy that got welfare reform done. Probably the most consequential speaker in our lifetime by far.
Well, my guess is that Trump would obviously put him on the list. But when you mention Rudy, for example,
I want him for Attorney General
on the social issues, and a lot of conservatives are going to be very concerned.
How about Attorney General to prosecute Hillary?
Oh, listen, they got a lot of guys for Attorney General.
Well, go back to Newt for a second.
Included, huh?
Well, you got Chris Christie. One of them could be.
We're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of winning this thing, Sean.
Well, I could always dream.
We're all picking the cabinet.
Listen, I'm just going down that road. You're the one that has the column. Only an act of God can stop Trump. So
somebody asked me. I think it's as they said of Calvin Coolidge. Somebody said his career showed definite signs of celestial intervention,
All right. Well, I don't underestimate Hillary. Just to backtrack here a second. I really don't. I think she starts out.
I think she's capable and she's tough and she'll be
She's a horrible candidate, though. She's
a terrible candidate on the stump, but she is not bad in debates. And she has held her own against,
Bernie.
She held her own in 2008. And frankly, I think she was a much better candidate in 2008 when she came back from those 12 defeats. I was immensely impressed with her. I mean, as a candidate, came back, won Pennsylvania and won Kentucky and won West Virginia and was, I think, winning Ohio. And Obama's lucky he had a better ground game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But she doesn't have her husband's interpersonal skills.
No, and she doesn't have the skills on the podium that
Obama has.
Oh. That Obama or Bill Clinton had. I mean, Bill Clinton. You remember the debate with George H.W. Bush?
Sure.
He moves away from the podium and he's over there chatting away. He was really a 60s guy.
Oh, he's a natural.
As the 60s generation, as the baby boomers were really coming of age.
I care. Listen, I'm going to take care of all this. I promise you things haven't been going good. And listen, if you want a tour, sweetheart, after this, I'll take you backstage. All right, I got to go. Patrick J. Buchanan, God bless you, my friend.
You take it easy, my friend. Bye-bye.
Hey.